First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Yahweh is to this world, Ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is to this world, Ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'ashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Quadash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. Also, give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's video, I wanted to go into how you have to have balance with that alcohol. Balance with everything. And this ties into the video I made yesterday, going into, avoid the gluttonous spirit of America, but now specifically talking about alcohol, right? Because this is something that, is often overlooked, and, a lot of people drink to cope, to run away from their problems. And what they don't realize is that the problems never run away. There's always going to be new problems. And you can't always, lean upon that vice. It has to be moderated, or else, you start running into all types of problems, kidney, liver, whole body failure, because you can't control that lust. So, está bien. So, I'm going to start with Ecclesiasticus chapter 31 and verse 25. It says, "Show not thy valiantness in wine, for wine hath destroyed many. The furnace proveth the edge by dipping, so doth wine the hearts of the proud by drunkenness." Right, so you're not supposed to be in the spirit of, look at me, look at how much I can drink. Right, and that's the mentality that's pushed today. For example, a big influencer that blew up, his name was Steve Will Do It. And you look at Steve Will Do It, the first thing that literally pops up is Steve chugs an entire bottle of vodka or tequila or whatever it was. Okay, Steve Will Do It gained viral fame partly for extreme stunts involving chugging massive amounts of alcohol, such as entire bottles of wine, liquor, or multiple beers in rapid succession. Right, and people ate that up. That's how he blew up. He ended up making his own thing. But, this is what's being pushed on the youth today, is to, be like Steve. And I remember, when this came out that, people were doing this type of thing, chugging whole bottles because, look at me. So ultimately all that's going to do is, show that pride. And once pride, comes up, a great humbling is on the way. So it says, "Wine is as good as life to a man, if it be drunk moderately. For what life is then to a man that is without wine? For it was made to make men glad." Right? So it tells you clearly how wine, when you get that good alcohol in you and you haven't drank in a while, it does something different to you, man. It lifts you up. It puts you in a different, mind space. Takes away all those pressures and anxieties and just, makes you feel good. And the ultimate thing there is moderately, or else, if you don't drink at all, you're ultimately, essentially, missing out in a way. Not bad, but, the Most High made it for a reason. Yahweh Shai drank, so there's nothing against drinking. Because you got people that talk about, oh, no, you shouldn't drink and this or that, but, everything is in moderation, and you got to look at your own body and the way you're feeling. For example, like, I was drinking maybe 3 weeks ago, tequila, 3-4 days straight. And I was drinking every single weekend, and I was exercising less. And next thing you know, I start having, kidney pain. And I'm like, what's going on? And I looked into it in the Google, and, tequila or any alcohol can severely dehydrate you, right? And cause all types of problems. Next thing you know, you gaining weight, right? Here it is, you was completely in shape, but hey, now I'm gaining weight, and it's hard to get the weight off. So, these are things all tied to, overindulging in that alcohol. And I wanted to ask the Google, how long does it take for the liver to regenerate? Right, so it says the liver can regenerate its full mass and size within 8 to 12 weeks after a partial surgical removal or living donor surgery, with active cellular repair beginning in just 3 to 7 days. Right, so initial rapid cell multiplication restores a large portion of the blood flow and basic functional mass. So for your liver to even, repair, 3 to 7 days. Now imagine, drinking every day, drinking every other day, every 3 days, and the effect that that's going to have on your body. right? So 3 to 7 days. Let's just call it 7 days for your liver essentially to clean itself out. It says signs that your liver is healing, increased energy, more energy, clear thinking, less pain, better eyes, and jaundice. Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of Cubans, especially the dark skinned ones, having jaundice, man. You look in their eyes and it's just straight yellow because of all the drinking they were doing. So it says, wine measurably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind. But wine drunken with excess maketh bitterness of the mind, with brawling and quarreling. Right? So that's what you see, especially when you go to, these clubs or these bars, or you look at people in that environment, is they start getting hostile. Right? Because they're in there every single week. A lot of them, more than once a week. And they're in there to, run away from their problems. So when they start drinking, it makes them think of their problems even more. They get bitter, and they just take it on somebody else, because they don't know how to handle their emotions and, the baggage that they have. Which, the best way to really do it is that way, sober. Handle your problems soberly. No vices, no nothing at all. Just straight to the point. Figure out what you need to do and fix it. Or else, you're always going to essentially cope in a way, or put the blame on something else. It says, drunkenness increaseth the rage of a fool till he offend. It diminishes strength and maketh wounds. And rebuke not thy neighbor at the wine, and despise him not in his mirth. Give him no despiteful words, and press not upon him with urging him to drink. Right, and that's a big one. It says, rebuke not thy neighbor at the wine. Going into, hey, don't, if y'all are drinking, that's not the time to bring out, the big conversations, to tell your friend about how he messed up with this and he should do this. That's not the time, because a different spirit is in the air, and that's just going to completely change the vibe. And a lot of times, like I said, people, they don't know how to control themselves when they're on that alcohol. They're another spirit that has entered their temple. So, and it says, press not upon him with urging him to drink. Which is another one you see, right? You've ever drank with, somebody and they're just telling you, shot, 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 shot. And you especially see that more in the parties. Or they're telling you, take a shot, drink with me. Come on, bro. Just one. That's not supposed to be that way. Right? So you could say it one time, hey, let's take a shot. But if they say no, then it is what it is. You're not supposed to urge him. Nah, bro, you're a pussy, and just go down that lane and, oh, you don't want to drink, you're a lightweight. So, I go into this because these are the things that ultimately help you level up. You go read the book Ecclesiasticus, and you're going to get all types of wisdom. And this is how, as it says, wisdom orders your steps. Wisdom helps you move correctly so you don't make the same mistakes that many, many, many men have made before. So I'll leave it there. Just a quick video. Hopefully this was edifying. With that, I give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kakodash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of great millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom, Tigalash, Shalom.